Was Diddy behind the death of Biggie? For years, fans have speculated. But what if the truth has been right in front of us all along? The rumors, the cover-ups, and the shocking revelations. It's all coming to light, and the truth is darker than we ever imagined. On March 9th, 1997, the hip-hop world was rocked by the tragic death of one of its brightest stars, Christopher Wallace, better known as the notorious B.I.G. or Biggie Smalls. But while the world mourned, a cloud of mystery hung over his death. The details surrounding his murder in Los Angeles that night have sparked countless theories. Some say it was retaliation for the murder of Tupac Shakur. Others believe it was more personal, an inside job. And at the center of it all, Sean Diddy Combs. For years, Diddy has denied any involvement, but what if the evidence has been buried until now? What if the man who mentored Biggie was also the one who betrayed him? What if Diddy knew exactly what was happening but did nothing to stop it? In this video, we're diving deep into the shocking details that have finally surfaced after decades of silence. From secret deals and betrayal to mafia-like tactics and cover-ups, the truth behind Biggie's death is far more sinister than we thought. Stay with us, because you won't believe what we've uncovered.
Biggie's death and the immediate aftermath. It was a night that should have been filled with celebration. March 9th, 1997. Biggie had just left the Vibe magazine party at the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. The Soul Train Awards were happening, and Biggie had been in good spirits. But as he stepped into his car, the world would never be the same again. Just after midnight, shots rang out in a drive-by shooting that ended Biggie's life. At least 5 bullets ripped through the passenger door where Biggie was sitting. The car careened through the streets as he was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. As the news spread, fans gathered outside the hospital, many of them in disbelief, clutching their hearts at the loss of a legend. In the days that followed, the world was left with more questions than answers. The LAPD had their theories, but nothing concrete. And while the public was mourning, rumors began to swirl. Was Biggie's murder simply another tragic part of the East Coast-West Coast rivalry, or was there more to it? This was no ordinary rap feud. The feud between East Coast Bad Boy Records and West Coast Death Row Records had been building for years. But after Tupac Shakur's murder just months earlier, tensions had reached a boiling point. Tupac's murder in Las Vegas in 1996 had already set the stage for violence. And Biggie's untimely death only deepened the suspicion that these two murders were connected, though no one could prove it. As the world tried to make sense of it, some turned their attention to Diddy, Biggie's mentor and the founder of Bad Boy Records. Could the man who helped propel Biggie to fame have known more than he let on? Theories began to emerge, questioning if Diddy was involved directly or indirectly in orchestrating Biggie's death.
The East Coast versus West Coast rivalry. The 1990s were a time of intense rivalry in the world of hip-hop, with the East Coast and West Coast battling for dominance. On one side, there was Sean Diddy Combs and his empire, Bad Boy Records, based in New York City. Diddy's star was the notorious B.I.G., the larger-than-life rapper whose gritty lyrics and streetwise persona made him a household name. On the other side was Suge Knight and Death Row Records, home to the explosive and controversial Tupac Shakur. What started as a competition for chart-topping success soon turned into something much darker. In 1994, Tupac was shot multiple times in a robbery at a recording studio in New York. He blamed Diddy and Biggie for setting him up, even though both denied any involvement. The animosity grew and tensions were high. Tupac's accusations were more than just words. They were a declaration of war. In 1996, Tupac released the infamous diss track Hit 'Em Up, where he not only attacked Biggie, but also claimed Biggie had an affair with his wife, Faith Evans. It wasn't just music anymore. It was personal. Tupac had put his own life on the line by calling out the East Coast's biggest stars.
And Biggie, for his part, denied the accusations, maintaining that he had no involvement in the attack on Tupac. But the damage was done. The feud between the two had escalated from a rivalry of record sales to a full-fledged, deadly grudge. And then, in September 1996, Tupac Shakur was gunned down in Las Vegas in a drive-by shooting, leaving the entire hip-hop world in shock. Biggie's death just 6 months later seemed like the final act in this tragic saga. Was it retaliation for Tupac's murder? Was the East Coast-West Coast war now claiming its biggest casualties? But there was another layer to the story, one that went beyond just the music. Many began to ask, did Diddy have a personal interest in silencing Biggie? Was he trying to maintain control over his empire at all costs, even if it meant letting his protege become a target?
The secret deals and allegations. As rumors swirled about the true cause behind Biggie's death, one question kept resurfacing. Did Diddy play a more sinister role than anyone could imagine? According to some, Biggie's sudden trip to Los Angeles might not have been his decision at all. Reports suggest that Biggie wasn't even ready to go to LA at the time. He was recovering from an injury, barely able to walk, and reportedly against the idea of traveling so soon after Tupac's death. But somehow he found himself on a plane to the West Coast, where he would ultimately meet his tragic end. There were whispers that Diddy himself pushed Biggie to go. Why? Was it simply business, or was there a deeper motive at play? According to several sources, Biggie was planning to leave Bad Boy Records. He was ready to branch out on his own, to take control of his career. Biggie was becoming too powerful, too independent, and for someone like Diddy, that could have been a problem. The idea that Diddy might have wanted to keep Biggie under his thumb grew stronger as more details emerged. There were rumors that Diddy had been involved in making decisions for Biggie that might not have been in his best interest, including pushing him to record in Los Angeles when the West Coast was so dangerous for an East Coast rapper. But more than that, people began to wonder if Diddy had more to lose than he let on if Biggie were to break away from him. Biggie's loyalty was everything, and the idea that Diddy could have been willing to do anything to keep him under control made some fans reconsider everything they thought they knew about the relationship between the two. The possibility that Diddy was not just a mentor, but a manipulator began to take hold. Was Biggie's death just an unfortunate casualty of the music business, or did Diddy have a much darker hand in it? And this question lingered in the background as more and more allegations came to light, ones that hinted at a much deeper conspiracy than anyone had ever imagined.
Detective Kading's allegations. As the years passed and the theories surrounding Biggie's death grew more complex, one man seemed determined to uncover the truth. Greg Kading, a retired LAPD detective, was assigned to reinvestigate the murder in 2006 after multiple leads had gone cold. His investigation was driven by a desire to finally bring closure to the families of Biggie and Tupac, who had both lost their lives in senseless violence. What Kading uncovered was nothing short of shocking. After years of dead ends, Kading's investigation pointed to a theory that many had speculated about, but few had been able to prove. Biggie's murder was a direct retaliation for Tupac's killing. But the details of how it all went down were far more intricate than anyone could have imagined. Kading alleged that Suge Knight, the notorious leader of Death Row Records, was the mastermind behind the hit. And according to Kading, the order to kill Biggie came from inside the Los Angeles County Jail. At the time of Biggie's death, Suge Knight was incarcerated, and in order to communicate with the outside world, he relied on an intermediary, a woman who posed as his legal assistant during her visits to him in jail. This woman, whose identity remains protected, was key to the plot. Kading detailed how she worked out a deal with the hitman, known as Poochie, to execute the murder. In a chilling revelation, the woman confessed that Suge had instructed her to reach out to Poochie, arranging the money and setting up the logistics for Biggie's murder. The plan was set into motion, and on that fateful night, outside the Peterson Automotive Museum, Poochie took his position and opened fire on Biggie. The tragic irony was that just 6 months earlier, Biggie's own friend and rival, Tupac, had met a similar fate in Las Vegas. What many didn't know was that the revenge plot had been carefully orchestrated, and the timing was no coincidence. Kading's investigation painted a chilling picture of a tangled web of revenge, deceit, and manipulation. Suge Knight's involvement was undeniable, but Kading's theories raised even more questions. Was Diddy merely a bystander, or did he know about the plan all along? Was Biggie's death part of a larger conspiracy that had been brewing for years? The pieces were starting to fall into place, but the full truth was still elusive, and with the passage of time, the questions remained. Was Biggie just another victim of the deadly rivalry, or was he a pawn in a much bigger game?
The Bodyguard's shocking revelation. In 2024, a shocking revelation came from an unlikely source. Diddy's former bodyguard, Uncle Ron Smith. His confession would add fuel to the fire and push the conspiracy surrounding Biggie's death to new heights. In a TikTok video that quickly went viral, Smith made a bold claim. Diddy and Jay-Z were both involved in the murder of Biggie Smalls. Smith, who had been close to Diddy during his time at Bad Boy, said that Biggie was on the verge of leaving the label and going out on his own. Biggie had reportedly expressed frustration with the way he was being treated. He was tired of being controlled and used by the label. According to Smith, Diddy, feeling threatened by Biggie's growing power, had something to gain from silencing him. But it didn't stop there. Smith claimed that Jay-Z, who was a rising star in the rap world at the time, was also involved. The theory Smith presented suggested that Jay-Z and Diddy had a shared interest in removing Biggie from the picture, making way for their own careers to skyrocket. Biggie was getting too powerful, Smith said. He was about to leave Bad Boy. He was planning to do his own thing. That made Diddy nervous. He had to do something about it. Smith even went as far as to claim that Jay-Z wanted Biggie out of the industry entirely so he could take over and become the undisputed leader of hip-hop. The video was a bombshell. It was clear that Smith had been deeply involved in the inner workings of the Bad Boy empire, and his insights into the dynamics between Diddy and Jay-Z and Biggie shed new light on the motivations behind Biggie's death. For years, fans had speculated about the relationship between Diddy and Biggie, but now Smith's testimony opened the door to darker possibilities, one that involved not just Diddy, but other powerful figures in the industry. Smith also dropped another shocking detail in his video. He claimed he had been offered $30,000 to perform a hit on Biggie Smalls. This admission only added to the growing narrative that Biggie's death was far more than just a random act of violence. It was a calculated move, driven by greed, jealousy, and the power struggles within the hip-hop industry. Smith revealed he had turned down the offer, but the fact that it was even made raised more questions about the people who might have been involved. The video sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, but what made it even more unsettling was the fact that Smith died suddenly, just one day after the video went viral. His death, while officially ruled as natural, only intensified the rumors and theories surrounding Biggie's murder. Was Smith silenced to protect someone, or was it just a tragic coincidence?
The ongoing investigation and legal drama. Despite the shocking confessions and mounting evidence, the investigation into Biggie's murder remains officially unsolved. But the case is far from closed, and new developments continue to emerge, even decades after that fateful night in Los Angeles. In fact, the ongoing legal battles surrounding Diddy have brought new attention to the case, particularly as more and more former associates step forward with explosive claims. At the heart of the drama is Diddy's current trial, which has nothing to do with Biggie's murder, but rather with a series of disturbing allegations involving sexual abuse, racketeering, and bribery. During these proceedings, several witnesses have testified about Diddy's abusive behavior and his attempts to cover up his misdeeds. One of the most damaging pieces of evidence came from a former hotel security officer named Eddie Garcia. Garcia testified about an incident in 2016 where he claimed to have been offered $100,000 by Diddy to suppress a video that allegedly showed Diddy assaulting his then-girlfriend Cassandra Ventura at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles. Garcia's testimony revealed a web of corruption, intimidation, and financial transactions that painted Diddy in an even darker light. Garcia's story was chilling. He described how Diddy and his associates tried to pressure him into handing over the footage, offering him a generous payoff to make it disappear. The details were eerily reminiscent of the alleged cover-up surrounding Biggie's murder, where money was used to silence witnesses and erase crucial evidence. The parallels between the two cases were impossible to ignore. And as more people came forward with their accounts of Diddy's manipulative behavior, the case against him grew stronger. Meanwhile, former employees who had worked with Diddy for years continued to testify, shedding light on his ruthless tactics and violent tendencies. Among these witnesses is Christina Coram, Diddy's chief of staff, who has been linked to several shady dealings. She reportedly helped orchestrate many of Diddy's questionable actions, and her involvement in the cover-up of the Cassie Ventura incident could be crucial to understanding the full extent of Diddy's criminal enterprise. What's clear now is that Diddy's empire, once built on glitz, glamour, and the power of Bad Boy Records, may have been fueled by far darker means than anyone ever suspected. As the trial continues, there's growing pressure for law enforcement to revisit Biggie's case and connect the dots between the mogul's shady dealings and the murder of his former protege. The idea that Diddy might finally be held accountable for his alleged role in Biggie's death is no longer just a far-off theory. It's becoming more of a reality with every new piece of evidence that emerges. Could the truth about Biggie's murder finally be revealed? Only time will tell. The shocking truth and what's next. As we piece together the countless rumors, confessions, and mounting evidence, one thing becomes clear. The story of Biggie's death is far from over. The theories surrounding his murder have evolved from mere speculation to a complex narrative involving power struggles, secret deals, and potentially murder for control. While the investigation continues to be stalled, the cracks in the facade of Diddy's empire are beginning to show. As more former associates testify against him in the ongoing trial, the pressure on Diddy grows. The testimony from those who once worked closely with him paints a picture of a man willing to do whatever it takes to protect his wealth and status. From his alleged role in suppressing evidence to his ties to other shady dealings, Diddy's public image as the charming, successful mogul is quickly falling apart. And as the case against him deepens, so does the mystery surrounding Biggie's death. The connections between the two cases, Diddy's abusive behavior, the bribery attempts, the cover-ups, and the money involved, make it impossible to ignore the possibility that Diddy may have had more to do with Biggie's death than anyone has dared to admit. But even with all the new revelations, there are still many unanswered questions. Why was Biggie in Los Angeles at that time? Was it really just a business decision? Or was there something more sinister at play? And who else besides Diddy might have been involved in orchestrating his murder? The fact that Biggie's murder remains unsolved all these years later is a testament to how deeply the cover-ups and lies run. But with new witnesses stepping forward and more people willing to expose the truth, there's hope that the final piece of the puzzle will soon be revealed. Could Diddy's ongoing trial be the key to unlocking the truth about Biggie's death? For now, the world waits with bated breath as the legal drama unfolds. The truth may be closer than we think, and when it comes, it will not only change how we view Diddy and Biggie, but the entire history of hip-hop.
The future of the case and the final word. As we approach the final stages of this ongoing investigation and trial, the question that lingers is whether we will ever see true justice for Biggie Smalls. For years, fans and investigators alike have sought answers, but the mystery has remained locked behind layers of lies, corruption, and powerful figures protecting their own interests. The revelations we've uncovered in this video, Diddy's alleged connections to Biggie's death, the shady dealings, and the emerging testimonies offer hope that the truth might finally come to light. However, it's not just about bringing closure to Biggie's death anymore. It's about accountability. Diddy, once seen as a visionary mogul in the music industry, is now facing the consequences of a web of accusations that goes far beyond just one murder. His trial, marked by disturbing revelations, could change the trajectory of his career forever. And with more witnesses coming forward, the pressure on him continues to mount. But it's important to remember that the search for justice doesn't end with Diddy. This case highlights a larger issue within the entertainment industry, one where power, money, and influence often silence the truth. The dark side of the music business has been hidden in plain sight for decades, with artists like Biggie caught in the fryer par of rivalries that are far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. As we wait for the court's final decision, it's clear that the story of Biggie's death is far from over. The more we dig, the more complex and twisted the narrative becomes. Could Diddy be convicted for his alleged role in Biggie's murder? Or will this case remain another unsolved tragedy in the long history of hip-hop's most violent years? Only time will tell. But for now, the truth continues to unravel piece by piece, and the legacy of the notorious B.I.G. hangs in the balance. One thing is certain, the story of Biggie's life and death will continue to captivate the world, and the search for justice will never stop. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insights.